What's going on, guys? It's Matt with the FF Mediators and the Faceoff Sports Network here for my 2025 Dynasty Wide Receiver Rookie Rankings for this 2025 rookie class. Really excited to dive into these names, let you know why I have them there and kind of what I'm doing with them. But let's just go ahead and get started with number one, and that's going to be Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is the best wide receiver in this class. Yes, there's a scare about whether he's going to play corner or not. If he ends up playing primarily corner, then adjust your rankings accordingly, and you can slide him off and move everybody up a spot. But for now, he's the Heisman winner, the All-American, with a fantastic 2024 season where he had 96 catches for almost 1,300 yards, had 15 touchdowns. He's got elite ball skills. He's a route technician that can get even better once he commits to playing wide receiver more. I think he's going to have a bunch of packages. There's no reason why he can't have 30-plus snaps at wide receiver a game and still play corner because he's already doing it. I think he's a really good athlete, and that's going to help him a lot in the NFL, especially if he can't work on wide receiver as much as we want him to. You see him off the line of scrimmage. He's able to shake and beat defenders right off the line of scrimmage, secure the touchdown. I mean, he's just a big-time player, and I'm really excited to see where he ends up going, probably top 5 in this draft. But my wide receiver 2 is going to be Tetairoa McMillan out of Arizona. The 6'5", 212-pound wide receiver, first-team All-American, a fantastic breakout year in 2023 with over 90 catches and almost 1,400 yards. He followed that up this year with 84 catches, 1,300 yards again, and 8 touchdowns. He's got a power forward frame that he's not afraid to use. He's surprisingly fluid athlete for being that size. He's able to break routes. He's able to shake defenders a little bit. He's just a really good player. He's a little bit of a boom-bust type profile. We'll have to see if he can keep it up. Doesn't have necessarily the best separation metrics out of this entire class, but as of right now, he's going to be drafted really high, and he should be drafted high in your rookie drafts, likely somewhere between the 102 and 103. But let's jump to my wide receiver 3, and that's going to be Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. The guy is just the embodiment of production. School records for receptions and yards at Ohio State. That means everything considering the players that he's played with. His 2022 breakout season where he had 74 catches for 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns, that was with Marvin Harrison Jr. and JSN on that team. He's a slot merchant. Nearly all his snaps come from the slot. He's really comfortable there. He's a great route runner. He's tough as nails. He gives you all the effort you want. The further he falls in the draft, the better for his stock, to be honest, because that's just going to mean he's probably with a good quarterback because he's not making it out of the first round, in my opinion. But in our rookie drafts, I'm taking him in the middle of the first round, late first round, just wherever I can get him. We'll have to see where he ends up going, but I'm excited to see him because this guy catches everything. He's got great effort. He's a fantastic teammate, leader, player, everything you want. The guy just wants to win and play football. So I'm excited to draft him on my teams, and he's my wide receiver 3. But let's jump to my wide receiver 4, and that's going to be Luther Burden III out of Missouri. The small, shifty wide receiver is 5'11", 208, but he is an absolute yak monster. His manufactured touches and ability to make big plays is going to be huge for him at the next level. His 2023 was really the breakout for him where he had 1,200 yards on 86 catches and 9 touchdowns. This past season, only 64 catches for 676 yards and 6 touchdowns, but mainly that's just due to the offense. It was a really bad offense, but like Egbuka, he's going to run most of his plays out of the slot, and he's going to be really, really good there. He just needs to get a little bit more refined in his route running. There was times where he was on the backside of the play where he knew he wasn't getting the ball, and he would just get a little bit lazy or slack on his routes. So I think once he gets that under control, he'll be a really good pro. I don't expect him to be an alpha for any team, but I definitely could see him being a 1B for a team. And similar to Egbuka, the further he falls in that first round, the better for him because he'll probably end up with a good quarterback and a good running mate to really help take the pressure off of him. But let's jump to my wide receiver 5 of this class, and it's going to be a my guy for me. I've actually loved the tape of him, and that's Tre Harris. The wide receiver from Ole Miss, standing 6'3", 210, is just great. If you're a metrics guy, he's got a 3.0 yards per route run career over his career, 5.12 in 2024 and 3.17 in 2023. He's an elite separator, a route technician. He runs great routes. He's a big target for his quarterback. He's got fantastic hands where he can just pluck the ball out of the air with ease. He's just everything you want in a wide receiver, in my opinion. He has a fantastic ability to have contested catches with 43 of those in his career, which is more than Tetairoa McMillan. He uses his size fairly well to fight for extra yards when he's down the field. He finished 20th in yards after the catch this season, which I know that's not necessarily the biggest, finish, but when you compare that to those that were ahead of him, they all had 5 to 8 games more than him. So he missed a bunch of time in 2024. We're still a first-team All-SEC wide receiver. He's going to get drafted probably in the second round. If he could squeeze in the first round, that's going to shoot his draft stock up way, way, way up. But we'll just have to see what happens with the combine, with the draft. But for me, I'm going to draft him like crazy in the back of the first round and start of the second round. He'll be a lot like Brian Thomas Jr. or Ladd McConkey last year, where I was drafting those guys everywhere between the 110 and the 202. So do whatever you can to find him. I'm finding a way to get him on my team. My wide receiver 6 of this class, and that's going to be Golden. The wide receiver out of Texas, he's going to be a difficult case for a lot of people. The statistics just aren't really there, and the metrics aren't really there either. But he's got elite track speed. He's going to be a big-time separator. This guy is an absolute threat anytime he starts moving down the field. When you watch him, especially in these college playoff tapes here we've got, he's just a big-time playmaker. When he gets the double move or on these deep routes, he just gashes defense. And every time I watched the tape on him, I just kind of felt like we were undervaluing him a little bit. Like this offense wasn't necessarily the best. There were some quarterback injuries between being a run first team, a pass first team, a gimmick, RPO, screen type of team. It was just kind of all over the place, and it never, only just under 1,000 yards. He's still a good wide receiver option in this draft, in my opinion. Being a solid route runner, despite that limited production, I think he's going to be okay, because when we get to the combine, he's probably going to test fantastic. And that's why a lot of people have him squeezed into that first round of their mock drafts, and I would expect him to be there. For me, I'm drafting him in the late first of rookie draft. Obviously, we'll once we see the combine and we see the NFL draft, but right now, he stands to gain a bunch from the NFL Combine because there's a good chance that he's one of the fastest wide receivers there. But let's jump to my wide receiver 7 of this class, and that's going to be Jayden Higgins. The wide receiver from Iowa State is just a big frame wide receiver that's kind of good at everything, not necessarily great at anything. Second team, all Big 12. Third team All-American. He's 6'4", 215, 87 catches for almost 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. He finished 10th in FBS in both receptions and yards, which is pretty impressive because his teammate Jalen Noel was also fairly high on a lot of those metrics as well. His workable release package and route package are pretty good given his size. I mean, he's a big frame. He moves kind of like a mixture between Allen Robinson and Cortland Sutton. He's got great hands. He attacks the ball when it's in the air. He has pretty good timing off his routes. Solid contested catch guy with 14 in 2024. He plays a lot like a power forward. I like to compare these big frame wide receivers to power forwards just because sometimes it looks like they're going up there for a rebound. He had 66 first down catches this past season, which was second among all wide receivers. So his game is being a possession wide receiver, not being that breakaway speed or force the miss kind of guy. I expect him to be drafted on day 2 of the NFL draft. Our rookie draft, you can probably get him in the middle of the second round. I'm going to be eyeing him. If he gets a favorable location, then that's going to be good for his capital and good for his dynasty stock. So be sure to be tuned in to where Jayden Higgins might end up. But let's jump to my wide receiver 8 of this class, and that's going to be Elic Ayomanor from Stanford. The 6'2" wide receiver, stands 210 pounds. In 2023, when he broke out, he's a first-team freshman All-American, and he was a stud. 62 catches for 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. This past season, he was second-team All-ACC, and the metrics weren't quite as good. 63 receptions for 831 yards and 6 touchdowns. But a lot of that was just due to the Stanford offense being absolutely horrible. So he deserves a little bit of pass on that. That early breakout was really important. He's got great hands. He could stand to get a little bit better at being a contested catch guy. I think a lot of times he doesn't use his frame like he could. So hopefully he can develop that trait as he moves forward because he's fairly physical where he can box defenders out. But I feel like there's times where he should do that more often, and he didn't. He'll fight for extra yards. He doesn't necessarily have that breakaway speed either. or he's not going to necessarily force a bunch of missed tackles, but he's just a good wide receiver that's young and moldable. So given the right situation, I think he can rise up some draft boards here with the combine and the NFL draft as we get a little bit closer, where right now I think he's probably expected to be drafted somewhere in the third round and probably in the third round of rookie drafts as well. But let's jump to my wide receiver 9 of this class, and that's going to be Jack Bech from TCU. The wide receiver 6'2", 215, and man, he's a good one to root for. If there was ever a Rams wide receiver in this class, it's him. He plays tough as nails. He's everything you want in a wide receiver. He's willing to block, go in motion, and do everything. He's reliable, solid route runner, fantastic hands, tough as nails. He's got a history of running through the slot, so I think that's going to help him going to the next level where he's going to have that flexibility to line up all over the place. A good possession wide receiver. He had 17 missed tackles forced this past season, which was tied for 18th. He had 45 first down catches in 2024, which was 20th, and those are all among wide receivers with more than 50 targets, by the way. He's got a pretty good release from the line of scrimmage. It's actually kind of surprised me how much I liked his tape, but he's just a good player. He's like right there, he fights through those arm tackles. There's so many plays where there's just arm tackles against him, and he just runs straight through them. But let's just jump to my wide receiver 10 of this class, and that's going to be Tai Felton out of Maryland. Led the Big Ten with 96 catches this past season, had over 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns, averaged almost 12 yards a catch. He's just a big frame wide receiver that I feel like can do about everything. He started off the season with 4 consecutive games of over 100 yards, including a massive game in the season opener against UConn, where he had 178 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's going to be someone that I'm really keeping my eye on at this upcoming combine. He had an okay Senior Bowl. We'll have to see how he continues to develop. You see the stop and go there where there's something to work with. I'll play it one more time at the top of the screen. You'll see him just come back and just stop on a dime. And there's so many plays where he does that. And I'm really looking forward to see where he ends up getting drafted, because I think he's going to be one of those guys that's worth that third round flyer if you just want to take a shot on a wide receiver in your rookie drafts. But that's going to round out my top 10. I'll walk through it one more time. Travis Hunter, Tet McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden III, Tre Harris, Matthew Golden, Jayden Higgins, Elic Ayomanor, Jack Bech, and Tai Felton are in my top 10. Several names out there that I've looked at that are just on the edge. A couple names I looked at that I will not be drafting. So be sure to let me know down below who's in your top 10. What wide receiver am I missing? Is there anybody else you want to see more breakdown on? Let us know, and we certainly will do that. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. So be sure to like that video, subscribe to the Faceoff Sports Network, where we have constant dynasty and fantasy football content all the way up until the season begins. We've got the combine around the corner. We've got the draft at the end of April. It's the best time to be a fantasy manager, and we can't wait to help you work towards that next title. Until then, we'll see you next time.